Hello and welcome to Zero Cool Gaming and today's gaming review. Today we're going to be talking about the game Septerra Core. Now, Septerra Core is an interesting game. Came out in 1999 and it is, at its core, an RPG. But it does combine the aspects of several different genres. One of those being action-adventure games. And what I mean by that is point-and-click adventure games. You will collect little things along your way, and you'll combine those things to solve puzzles, or you'll use them in unique ways to get around roadblocks that are in your way. And that makes for an interesting way to interact with the environment around you. And I don't mind that. I think it's interesting how they did this. The graphics for this game, at least for the time that it was made, were excellent. Just simply excellent graphics. And they still stand up today. They really do. The gameplay itself isn't bad. There is grinding necessary if you want to get everything. And you'll never, if you're just playing through the game, you'll never have enough money to get all the stuff you need for your guys. And while that doesn't bother me, you do pick up some items and armor and things like that throughout levels. And it's usually the same stuff that you're going to buy at your stores anyway. And between the two, you usually end up with all of your characters getting their upgrades. So, in that respect, it's good level design and good programming. There are parts of this game that are difficult to figure out. The information is given to you, but you really have to read through everything to understand what it's wanting you to do. It does not hold your hand in any way, shape, or form. It's not going to give you a little line or, a trail that you need to follow. It will tell you what you need to know, and it will give you supplementary information, usually contained within books and things of that effect, to explain further what exactly it is you need to do. And none of that bothers me. I think that that's also good game design, and for many reasons. I mean, when you're playing a game, in a lot of cases when you get stuck, you do go back through and you start reading the stuff that you skipped over, or you start looking through everything that you didn't comb through to begin with. And in the process of doing that, not only do you learn more about the game that you're playing and the lore of that game, but like I said, you'll discover how to get past whatever's in your way. And I like that. This game was well designed for that process. It could easily be a 100-hour game if you're just playing through it and you get to a section where you're stopped, and then you go back and you try to figure out what you exactly need to do, and then go back to where you were and go through that area. And I don't mind games that are long in that respect. In fact, I enjoy them. So again, I see nothing wrong with any of that. Now, as far as the story isn't bad. It's not in depth. It really goes into no. It doesn't dive too deep into anything. I'll put it that way. And when I was looking through the reviews of this game, it kind of played out the same way. You had people who liked it. You had people who didn't really like it, but I don't think that they were people who truly enjoyed RPGs to begin with. from reading a few other of their reviews on other RPGs, that seems to be the case. And then you had people who are just kind of, it's okay. So, nothing really bad to say about it, nothing really great to say about it, and a couple of people kind of liked it. I would probably fall into that category of, it's not bad. It's not the best game I've ever played, that's for sure. But it is an enjoyable game. It is a fun game. There's actually a lot there. The only thing that it's really low in would be enemy types. You do have several enemy types, and you do have unique enemies and boss battles. But they're, they are along the same lines as your Tales of series. A lot of palette swapping. And it's basically the same enemy with a different color on it, and because of the new color of that enemy, it may have different attacks, different defenses, stronger attacks, things to that effect. And I'm not, for or against that type of programming. I understand the need for it in that respect. And I can understand, you've got time constraints, you've got, funding constraints, things to this effect, that will inevitably lead to those sorts of decision making. So for me, none of that really bothers me, because I've played lots of games that are like that. But it is very noticeable in this game. There's not a whole lot of enemy types. But they do make it interesting with their palette swaps in that respect, because every time you see an enemy with a new color on it, you know that it will be nothing like the ones you faced before. And that's pretty cool. I mean, they really do try to switch that up in that respect, to where you have to learn this new enemy type. So now let's get into the story of Septerra Core. And it is, as I said, a unique story. So basically, how this game is set up is you're on a world, and this world, you could say, in many ways, is on the brink of destruction. Not just because of what's going on within the game, but because of the design of the world itself. The world that you're on is made up of layers, from the core of the planet all the way out to its upper layer. And the upper layer is where the most advanced humanoids of this world live. And as you go down from there, each layer below that does not have the advancements and advantages that those who live on the upper layer do. Some layers are worse than others, so on and so forth. There is no crust of the planet, if you want to call it that. You have giant shells of Earth that travel over and under each other all the way to its core. It's quite unique. It's kind of like the planet was destroyed long ago, and this is, what's left of it kind of limping along. And I found that interesting. I found that to be pretty cool, actually. Besides the makeup of the world itself, like I said, on each layer of this world, the technological advancements, are the level of evolution varies greatly. Like I said, on the top layer you have the most advanced, and actually on the bottom layer you essentially have Indians still using knives and bows and arrows, things like that. And then in between the two is basically that. You have all the different levels of evolution in between those two, where the top layer is like essentially spacefaring, and the bottom layer is, you know, using knives and arrows. So, interesting. Very interesting. Now getting into the story. The story is, or the story starts with you playing a female main character. And her name is Maya. And with this female main character, you will go around on the world shelf that you're on, and you will get your first 3 party members. And as the game travels through, you will collect a party member from each shelf of the world around you. So you end up with 9 party members altogether. Okay, so the story. You start the story off, you're basically told to go to school. And you do. You go to school and you learn some things about the world around you from your teacher. And the teacher notices that one of his students, a child that lives with you, is missing. And you're asked to go find them. So, travel through on the shelf that you're on, and you talk to some people, and they tell you where he might be because they saw him headed that direction. So, on your way over there, you run into some issues, of course, and you've got to solve those. And then finally you meet up with this child that was supposed to be in school earlier that day. And what you find out is that he's essentially become a gun runner, or a seller of ammunitions, which is a crime where you're at. And it's also a crime on other shelves of this world to sell weaponry to other shelves. Mainly because this act has a tendency to start wars. And, of course, you ask him to stop, and he refuses and gives you, his pouty face about it. And while that is occurring, some officers, or military members, of another shell arrive to arrest him. Well, you don't want to see a war break out, because essentially, the last time that there was a war, you lost your parents. And that whole idea just doesn't set well with you. So you set off to try to convince the other shells not to A, start a war with each other, and B, to let this child go for his transgressions, and you will do your best to ensure that he doesn't do it again. An arms dealer is the word that I was looking for earlier. Basically, you need to convince him to not take up the occupation of arms dealer. And as you do this, you travel to other shells, and you try to get in touch with the commander of the armed forces that were sent to arrest your friend. And when you finally do meet up with him, he's murdered essentially by the town police. And when you get entangled with this mess, you realize that the whole reason for this propaganda campaign against the military on this shelf was actually instigated and being fueled by those who live on the upper shelf. People that call themselves I'm horrible with names. I really am. They have a name for them, though. It's like the Chosen. Yes, the Chosen. And when you realize that the Chosen are involved in this, you realize that the Chosen are essentially trying to instigate war on a world shelf that truly has nothing to do with them. And this bothers you, to say the least. So, as your story started to just get your friend off for being an arms dealer, it's now turned into a quest to prevent war. Now, of course, the drama doesn't end there. Because the Chosen haven't just been influencing the problems with these two shelves. They've been instigating problems with basically every shelf on this planet. And when you get to the next shelf, you realize that they have provided technologies to one side of a war that is currently occurring to what they believe would end the war, but it's not to end the war. The man behind all of this doesn't care about the world he lives on, and he truly doesn't care if the world destroys itself as long as he can get what he wants. And you realize that he's given these people the ability to actually move their entire world shelf and raise it into another one. And of course, they're not going to use this on their own shelf. No, they're going to launch it at their enemy's shelf, raising it into the shelf above that, and they don't even care whether or not both of those shells die as a result, and everyone on them. So, the story gets deeper. So you work to try to prevent this, and while you don't prevent it, at least you lessen the harm that would be done. And then you learn the goals, shall we call that, of the Chosen. And it's not all of the Chosen, just of this one general. You see, he is the ancestor, or not ancestor. Well, his ancestry is that of a great general from long ago that once saved the world. And he fancies himself as much the same. And he believes that he should be the one to receive the kingdom of heaven and the gift of the Creator. Now, in his mind, he truly believes that this will raise him to some sort of godhood. And once he has his godhood, he will have little need for the lesser world beneath him. This is not true, of course, but he's convinced himself of this. So he will pursue that literally to the end of the world. And of course, you being part of this world don't want that to happen. So you start on a new quest. A quest to prevent the Chosen from getting the gift of the Creator and are entering the kingdom of heaven. And the Chosen have gone to extreme lengths to make this happen. So you continue your quest and you find some of the items necessary to enter the core of this planet to receive the gift of the Creator. And upon doing so, both you and the chosen are told that the gift of the Creator is not something that's given to one person. It's given to the entire world. And the kingdom of heaven is not for one person, but it is something that the entire world that they live upon have to be able to do. And there's, let's just say, things that have to occur on this world, on all the shelves of this world, for that to happen. It's basically an evolutionary process, or what we would call world peace. And currently this world is far from having any kind of world peace. So you continue your journey. Of course, you collect the rest of your companions. And there are side quests for your companions to end the squabbles between them. If you put the wrong party members in your party, they'll literally shoot at each other. It's hilarious to watch, but you realize that this could be very damaging to your party as the game goes on, because this game has a tendency to force particular parties upon you for short segments. So it would be beneficial to do the party side quests and end the squabbles between party members. And they're well designed, they're well written, and they're consistent for the world you live in and the kind of hatred that they would have for each other, and then needing to learn to get along and work with one another and, create a better world for everyone. At the end of the game, you basically defeat the Chosen. You don't truly bring about world peace, but because your party members are all from a different shelf and they're all working together, the gift of the Creator is given. And the gift of the Creator is essentially a warp gate to all of the other planetary systems in the galaxy. And you become part of that intergalactic governing body. Your world will now have a voice within the intergalactic council. And that's what the Creator called the kingdom of heaven, the intergalactic kingdom. So it's not a very deep story. It's not a very long story in truth, but it is an interesting story. And it does keep you wondering what's going to happen next. It keeps you guessing as to how things exactly will play out. And it's always testing your brain with its point-and-click adventure style puzzle solving. Well, that's my rant for the day, and I hope you enjoy the rest of yours.